All right, week 4 college football breakdown here. Good Big 12 matchup here. A lot better matchup than people are going to give credit to. Kansas State going on the road to Norman, take on the Sooners. Seeing Oklahoma coming off of last week's big win at Nebraska, laying 13.5 in this spot. Considerably low total for an Oklahoma game at 53.5. I'm on Kansas State first half plus the 7.5. We're going to get into all of it. Full disclosure, you see Bevo in the background. I'm a UT fan. I bet on A&M last week. I've bet Oklahoma countless times over the last probably 3-4 years. So I just want to address that out of the gates because it's kind of a bad look when I bet against these teams sometimes that I don't like personally, but I had nothing to do with it. I'm going to tell you something. Is beating Nebraska a good barometer of where you're at as a team? Let's look at history here. Northwestern beat them week 1. What has Northwestern done since that win in Dublin? They lost at home outright to Duke. They lost at home outright to Southern Illinois. So that kind of checks one box. Obviously a few weeks ago, Nebraska gives up 45 to Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern escapes Lincoln with a win. The very next week, Georgia Southern loses by 14 at UAB. So if you like Oklahoma coming into the year and that's why you're betting them, all kudos to you. I think that's fine. I mean, if you're taking what you saw last week against a lifeless Nebraska team, and that's really going to have a big impact on how you view this game, your logic is faulty. And I think history, like I said, just proves that. That trend really speaks for itself. Limited sample, but I'm just saying playing Nebraska is a terrible barometer of where you're at as a team. I think Kansas State is not going to flinch in this spot. They beat Oklahoma in Norman 2 years ago, the last time they played there. I mean, they were 28-point dogs in that game. They won outright. It was a weird year, 2020. I get it. But even last year, Spencer Rattler had a career day. From an efficiency standpoint, Spencer Rattler played lights out. And if he didn't play lights out, Kansas State was hanging toe-to-toe with Oklahoma in Manhattan last year. So this is just not a game where Kansas State's going to flinch. There are certain Big 12 teams who I think will lose to Oklahoma before the game starts. Don't think Kansas State is one of them. Obviously, sentiment on Kansas State is low. They lost at home to Tulane last week. But let's not forget, they beat Missouri by 30 the week before. So they're probably not as good as they were in that Missouri game, but they are not as bad as they were last week against Tulane. Specifically defensively, and they look good defensively last week. By my efficiency metrics, this is a top 10 defense in the country. They can get after the quarterback, which is something I think will play in to this matchup. Very stout at linebacker. I mean, opposing running backs have had no success against this Kansas State defense. I loved their cornerbacks last year. Both of those guys are back this year. I like this Kansas State defense at all 3 levels. I think up front is where Oklahoma could be beat. They struggled even against Kent State and UTEP at consistently protecting Dillon Gabriel. This is the type of matchup where that's going to get exploited. I'm not going to talk down on Dillon Gabriel. I don't think he played great last week per se. Missed on some of his deeper shots, but still think he's a good quarterback, and that's probably selling him short. But on the same token, I'm going to focus on the Oklahoma run game. I mean, I'm really not sold on Eric Gray and Marcus Major and guys like that stepping up into this type of spot. I mean, literally everybody's been able to run on Nebraska, and before that they played UTEP and Kent State. So I had question marks about that unit coming into the year. So how they do against inferior competition is meaningless to me because this is a major step up in competition here. And I'm not willing to concede that Dillon Gabriel struggles a little bit against what's a pretty good secondary. This Kansas State defense so far, allowing less than 10 points per game, don't overlook that fact. Kansas State is a good defense. I think this is much more of an even matchup than many people will think. Now, Kansas State's offense looked terrible last week. It can't put up 10 points against Tulane and expect to get much for the benefit of the doubt. It is what it is. It was a bad game. I think they'll come in here with a good game plan, though. They got Deuce Vaughn, who's kind of a Darren Sproles 2.0. The last 2 years against Oklahoma, in those 2 matchups, Deuce Vaughn has put up a total of 319 yards. They've used him in the run game, but more so, they've used him in the passing game. And so I think Colin Klein and Chris Kleiman are going to be able to dial up a good game plan to use Deuce Vaughn, and he's going to be the centerpiece of that offense. If there's a guy that I won't be in the centerpiece of my offense, it's that guy. He's electric. He can create so many mismatches at the second level and really be such an elusive player. I like Deuce Vaughn a lot, and so I think they'll have a great game plan for him. I'm not willing to concede the fact that Adrian Martinez is some lost cause. I feel like Colin Klein hasn't really taken the training wheels off with Martinez this year, but Martinez showed major strides as a passer last year at Nebraska. 9.4 yards per attempt. That's higher than Dillon Gabriel's career average. For reference, I'm surprised that Kansas State has been so conservative in their passing game. I do think Martinez, has the potential to exceed a lot of expectations in that area. And we obviously know what he can do as a runner as well. The one thing I've been impressed about with Oklahoma is their pass rush. Pass rush has looked really, really good here through 3 games. Looked good in their first 2 home games, and then they really kind of just got after Casey Thompson last week. But I think they can be run on the second level. I don't think it's a weakness necessarily, but I think Deuce Vaughn is better than their linebackers. I think Oklahoma has issues in their secondary that could be exploited over time. I think Kansas State will get stops defensively. I think they're a pretty even matchup with Oklahoma's offense. And I think early in this game, Kansas State will have a good opening script. And I think this will stay a close game through halftime. Why I'm not playing this over the full game, if Oklahoma is able to somewhat pull away, get up 10, get up 13 late, I wouldn't feel great about Kansas State having to revert to a pass-first offense. I think the running game is going to really have to kind of carry them in this one. Like I said, my best look is to isolate that in the first half and take the Wildcats plus the 7.5 early in this game. Appreciate y'all watching the video. If you like what you heard today, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and don't miss any of the upcoming content. Comment your best look on this game down below. Side, total. If you're not a betting guy, just a prediction. Comment your best look on this game down below. You see this shirt right here. I know you've been staring at it the whole time. Go to proud90.com. Unique but very comfortable polos as well. Also got t-shirts, hoodies, quarter zips. Proud 90's got all your golf apparel needs. If you see anything you like at checkout, use code Fordham. It's going to get you 15% off your entire order. Support me. Support Proud 90. Proud90.com.